Okay, so today we are talking to Matt Bradley. So before we start to talk about what it is you do, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Okay. First of all, thanks for inviting me on. A little bit about myself. So we moved over to France maybe 30 years this September, I think. And we came over just because we've been living in London. We had a 4-year-old and we just time to change. So came out with 100 quid. One of my top business decisions I've made repeatedly over the years. And we had a great time. Really, we've had a fantastic time here. We had a building company for 15 years. When I was 21, I bought a house. No, sorry, when I was 19, I bought a house in Birmingham, renovated it because I've always been quite practical. And then, but then got bored with the people who were making money like that and went back to college where I became an actor. And I spent several years as an actor. Probably on many things, forgettable things you'd have seen on television, all the usual suspects, TV, the Bill, EastEnders, Hale and Pace, lots of Hales and Paces. And then we came over here to change life, and we had the building company. And then in the financial crisis, the building company went bust, which is the best thing that ever happened. Be very careful when you're forming a company in France. And then I literally fell into a hypnosis course and working with people, which I've been doing every day since then, really. So it's been just kind of following my nose a lot of the time. And that's what I continue to do. And that will be what I do for the rest of my life. It's just been the most amazing 15-year journey or 13-year journey so far. And I'm what you call as a rapid transformational therapist.
Okay. Okay, give us a bit more background about because it's a leap to go from building houses to therapist.
Yes.
Go a
Yeah.
bit more about that kind of segue from one into the other.
So it was I mean, I have to admit at this point, I am something of a skeptic, sorry, same word in French. And so we went through a difficult time with the building company. At the same time, our youngest son, we've got 3 boys. Our youngest son was having night terrors. Fine, they're quite common up to an age, but he was getting just past that age when he should be getting them. And so I was reading a book actually the night before we were going into the tribunal to be officially stamped closed by the British, by the Chamber of Champions de Métier in Limoges. And I started reading about this section on hypnosis. Now, I always thought hypnosis was about, stage stuff, getting people on stage and making them cluck like a chicken. There is that, but I haven't done it. And so I found it interesting on a practical level. It kind of appealed to my builder's practical side. And it was explained really well to me, which often isn't well explained. And so I went down and told my wife, who said, "What a load of nonsense." And then the next day we went into tribunal, it was kind of theatrical because they all have the white wigs on and the gowns, and we got stamped and closed down. And we decided to celebrate by going away for the night to the coast where we used to go with the boys when they were younger, to Royan, to a mobile home site. And whilst in the clue there, or on the way, I was saying to my wife, discussing this hypnosis stuff and explaining how it's practical and how I could see it could work. Then we got to the mobile home place and we were in the queue. And there was a woman in front of me, had a problem with a gas bottle. And I said, "Look, I can see your mobile home's not far from ours. So if you want to, I'll come and fix it." And she said, "Oh, that's brilliant. Is that kind of thing you do?" I said, "Well, I'm in the middle of changing jobs at the moment." She went, "Oh, right." She said, "Have you ever thought about being a hypnotherapist?" And I thought, what? I said, "Hold it there. Come out and tell my wife because I think she ought to hear this." So we went outside and she went on to explain that she went to see this guy who she recommended me to go and see, a guy called Dr. Richard Butler. She said, even if you don't follow the course, what he tells you and what you'll learn there will change your life, which is a dramatic thing to say. So, okay, I said, well, tell me, I don't know anything about it. How did it work for you? She said, well, I don't actually do it anymore because I've got these twin girls here, these young girls, and they take up a lot of time, can take up a lot of headspace. She said, but I had the cesarean section without anesthetic or with hypnosis, which Richard let me do, which I thought was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was enough for me. She seemed a very level-headed person. We then came back to where we live here, which is in the middle of a field in the middle of nowhere. And we met up with some friends the following weekend for dinner. And they asked me what I was doing. And I said, look, you know, as you can sound, this may sound ridiculous, but I'm thinking about doing a hypnosis course. At which point they looked at each other and said, well, that's interesting because we've just found out our babysitter is a hypnotist. So that's 2 in a week. I thought, no, this is odd. So I phoned her up the next day. I said, I hope you don't mind me phoning, but blah, blah, blah. Could you give me advice on where to go train? She said, yeah, I've trained all around the world. She said, but the one I would recommend for you is a guy in the centre of London, Dr. Richard Butler, the same as the woman,
Right.
which is just, you know, and they weren't there at the same time. They didn't know each other there. They were there 15 years apart. So I said, okay. I was on it. Thought there's something happening here. There's something that's a little bit odd. So I phoned up the hypnosis place in London and said, when's the next course? And the secretary said, he's so busy at the moment. This was in September. He probably won't be doing anything until the following year. I said, that's fine. We're taking the kids out of school. We're going to spend a few months in India just to have a change of scenery because we literally hadn't stopped working from the day we got into France. And so we'd booked to come back in March the 16th, I think it was, the following year. And I got an email in December saying that the next course was going to be on the 21st, I think it was, like 3-4 days later. So it all just fell into line, and I went along there and spent it was 6 days, 12 hours a day, the first part. And I and one other woman were the only non-sort of professional, non-psychologists, psychiatrists. And it was really incredibly interesting. And that's where I got the bug. And it
Wow.
kind of opened my eyes to all sorts of things. And then subsequently had so many interesting teachings with people around the world that I've met, not all hypnosis. And as a subsequent, so the last 13 years, I think I've been doing it. Last year, I was invited to the biggest hypno conference in the world to do meditation on what I do because by chance somebody came to see me who was involved because I don't usually mix with other hypnotists. And so I went and did this presentation last year, which is a bit nerve-wracking. And then they invited me. Yeah, I mean, crazy. In fact, I meant to be there this year, meant to be there this week. I should be there arriving today. Because I'd subsequently wrote a book on the technique that I've created myself. And they said, you should write a book on that because we don't know that technique. And it seems very powerful. And I went, oh, okay. And so I wrote this book, which they then asked me to come and teach to other hypnotists this year. But Las Vegas ain't really my kind of place. Maybe another time.
Yeah.
But
It's a bit full on, isn't it?
it's a bit full on, and one visit was largely enough. So that's where I'm at now. And so quite interestingly, again, the last few weeks I've had a couple of people ask me if I could teach them how to do it. So that's I'll wait for things to suggest themselves. That's fine. Just what I do with everyone is just to try and get people to expand their reception
Right.
of the perception of going on around them and just be more calm and peaceful
And
so that they can
what kind
just
of people is it that are coming to? Is it a kind of wide
well
variety or
sorry yeah, it's wide, you know. I don't have any kind of niche market because that is I don't do the marketing bit really at all. Anyone who needs people come and see me for one thing. So they might come. So I had a woman come and see me last week. In fact, I've just seen her for a second time for some eating issues she's had. And I said, look, as I always say to people, here's a special offer of Tuesday afternoon. And they go, why the special off Tuesday afternoon? I said, because it's a special offer every day, but morning and afternoon. But it's a way for me to say, if there's anything else in your life that's bothering you in the past, or the not so long past, something that's a little bit stronger and affecting you more than you think it should be, let's get rid of it. That's the special offer of the day. So I said that to this woman last week, and it gives me a chance to find out globally what's going on in their lives, because I'm more interested in the global health rather than just eating too much or having a phobia or an anxiety or fear, lack of confidence. And she said, okay. She said, I lost my daughter 9 years ago, 10-year-old daughter. Within 10 minutes, she had an anaphylactic shock. She had an allergy that they had no idea about, and she watched her die. So, and basically, that's why she was eating so much, because she was trying to fill that gap. All of those emotions, anxiety, sadness, all of those, I see them as like little mouths that need feeding, because in our stomach, we produce serotonin, which is the happy hormone. And of course, you can imagine that the daughters needed to be, it was a huge hole. And she said, I just want the pain to go. And so I said, well, was there an issue with the eating before? She said, no. I said, well, okay, let's first of all take away this hurt that you don't deserve to be carrying. And so we did some techniques. I used several techniques, one of which I've developed completely myself, which questions before any hypnosis. But what it does is it traps the part of you that gets traumatized, and it isolates it so that it has to tell lies, which sounds kind of weird, but it's like a detective thing. See, if you imagine that everything we see, hear, smell, that there's little people behind, like it's got on the book there, that are filming, all this information goes to the back of the brain where it gets edited by the master emotion. So for her, it was trauma hurt. And so everything she did was being redirected by this hurt. So she couldn't get through the day because it was all being linked back to this hurt and loss and guilt and pain and anger. And so it blights everything, because we learn in two different ways, consciously and unconsciously. We're here talking consciously. We can discuss things. We can change each other's mind with facts. We can read books. We can discuss. We can reason. We can critique. But unconsciously, that's not how you learn. Unconsciously, you learn by watching, like an animal. If you imagine when we're babies, when we're born, we watch the people closest to us, historically mum or grandma and granddad, and you watch them, the way they behave. And of course, because they're alive, what they're doing is right, because it's working. And that's how animals learn. So you follow that, but it's a different way, and it's a non-verbal way of learning. So if you learn through that way, the other way you learn like an animal, unconsciously, is by trauma, like the death of that poor girl. Again, the trauma is like if you imagine the shock, too much information, you can't compute what's just happened in that 10 minutes. And it's like, boom, like lightning striking and a fuse going off. And while it's off, there's a couple of wires that get crossed. And when the electricity goes up on again, everything seems all right. The lights are on, but something's changed. And that's what happens with trauma. It's like there's a formula you've got in life, and the formula gets changed, and you can't work it out afterwards because you ain't got the right formula. So all I do is chase down the rogue editor with these questions, and they're yes or no questions. If there's anything else, then that's the editor at work, not intentionally, not malignly, but trying to help you, but through a trauma learning, which isn't going to be right. So all I do is change the equation back to one that works for the person who's in front of me. And so people can come to me and say, I want to change my eating habits, but then you dig a little bit deeper and there might be something behind it. And so people come to me for everything from that. That's happened quite a lot, actually. Lots of anxiety in the world, understandably, and stopping smoking, the standard stuff. But it really is a very, very rapid way Not a great business model, by the way, because it's so rapid. But it's a very rapid and painless way, because you don't have to do the talking bit for years on end. And I've seen that. I've had clients come in who've been on antidepressants for 25 years, of just like being zombified. Now, I know it won't short term. I think it's a good thing for people, but really, if you just take the problem away, then there's nothing that needs to be drugged.
Yeah, yeah.
And I feel really strongly about that because I come from a completely different side.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're obviously very kind of passionate about it, but if you weren't doing this, now you know what you know, having gone on this kind of journey, do you think there's anything else you'd want to be doing, or?
I'd probably like to have more time
Yeah.
to sit down and let that side of my the unconscious part of me explore more, whether that be through writing. I enjoy writing. I've just got a second book underway here now, which is nothing to do with the transformational work, but it's letting that in. It's about creating more flow and not putting too many obstacles in the way, because we've all been told what we can't do.
Mm.
We're already told what we can do. You know, the famous story of Roger Bannister, everyone said the 4-minute mile couldn't be broken. Then he broke it. In the same year, 20 people did it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know, you've got to raise the roof or even blow the roof off.
Yeah.
And just get out there and open up and have a look around and let stuff in. Because we don't do that, because the closer and more funneled our vision becomes, especially with these, you know, these things here, it literally goes into a smaller screen, and the depth of field of vision of understanding starts to reduce as well.
Okay.
So I'd be doing that, and I would probably still be doing building, because I enjoy that. I enjoy the physical aspect of it, working with stone.
Until your body gives out.
Have you seen something I've missed? Yeah, but you know, I can design.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Get someone to
pen and paper building. Yeah.
or paper aeroplanes.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for your
That's my pleasure.
time. That's been very interesting, very useful.
I hope so.
And I'm sure we'll speak again at some point in the near future.
Yep, absolutely. Great. Thanks very much for asking me on, and speak to you soon.
Okay. Cheers. Okay, so that was Matt Bradley, a rapid transformational therapist. I hope you found that interesting and useful. If you'd like more information about Matt, then I'll put a link in his link to his Facebook page below, and a link to his book as well, if you perhaps are interested in buying that, to have a look at that. Thanks very much.